Hey everybody who's out there in YouTube land, I am streaming again. Hello cats and kittens, I am back. Sorry I've been away. I've been wrapping up the semester and I am very eager to get back to this. Things have been crazy. Hope all of you are well and keeping yourselves busy. Hopefully this will be a little bit of entertainment. Just gonna paint and do some talking. Right now I'm working on book 2, which is on Indiegogo at the moment, and is still available on demand, so please check it out. There's a link in the description. And do like and subscribe. Because right now, one of the things I'm working on, and I'm really interested in doing with this, is helping to promote all my future projects and to promote this book that is wrapping up right now. It's already funded. It's already received enough backing and support. So if any of you guys are checking out this stream and checking out this channel, thank you so much for your support. It is going to be great and in your hands soon. I just heard from a fan in Norway on my Instagram who asked me if the book is available to ship to Norway, which unfortunately it is not, but I actually reached out to Indiegogo to see if we can get that sorted out. But it ships to Europe, it ships, of course, to the Americas, and if you are interested in receiving a copy of the book, we'll see if we can make that happen for you. This piece right here that I'm working on is for a short little sequential art section of Art Book 2, and this is kind of like a title page or a chapter break before we get to that section right there. And you can see that I'm doing some detail work on the gauntlets on one of these characters right here. And this is the character right here. This is the face of the character that I'm working on. And see if you can guess who that's inspired by. It's also inspired by one of my favorite sports. And then there's another figure down here, portrait, side view with a bat next to it. And this is inspired by Madeline Collinson, one of the Collinson twins, who is in a Hammer horror film called Twins of Evil that I like a lot. So, really fun vampire hunter film with the great Peter Cushing in it, starring as the kind of villain in that, which was kind of, I don't know, he's a complicated character. It's tough to call him a villain, but him along with the vampire character in that film, even though it stars two twin characters, the Twins of Evil, I think, are implied to be Peter Cushing's character and the lead vampire, who is a Karnstein. And they are a royal family that has become decadent, and eventually one of them makes a deal with an ancestor to become a vampire. And that's kind of what the story follows. So when I'm doing whoops, working off camera again. When I'm doing the work that I'm doing here, that's just some of the influences that are in here, along with Nosferatu and things like that. Actually, let me zoom out a little bit so you guys can get a better look at what I'm doing here. Let's see if that helps at all. That's a little better. It's a little better. Let's see if we can get that a little bit higher there. Sorry about the amateur work here in terms of cinematography, but I'm a little bit new to this. I need the sharper brush here for this. Let's see what we got here. There we go. Make sure I'm in frame here. Always try to take a breath and remember to hold it when I'm inking so I can get a nice clear line there. Some of the details you'll see me put in, I wouldn't say that people won't notice them, because I found that the people who look at my artwork expect a certain amount of detail, but I do think that sometimes I put in things that people are probably not going to notice, and I have to be honest, I don't try to avoid that, because I think that if someone supports your book and supports your artwork, they want to see you go for broke on it. And it doesn't mean that I put detail in to the point of it being a distraction, but I do admire, I mean, the book is already backed, the book is already going to happen, assuming everything goes well with the printer. I mean, it's definitely going to happen, but I may see how my printer is doing with all the craziness that's going on. The thing for me is that when people get this book who have backed it with their support, with their money, with their enthusiasm, that they're going to get something they're excited to receive. I felt very happy with the product that I shipped with book one, and I want book two to be as good or better in terms of what I'm trying to do, in terms of the detail, and in terms of its visual richness. And so that's one of the things I'm really going for right now, is just to make sure that every single one of these concepts and stories that I put together into it, every one of these, I don't like the word concept, it drives me crazy. Every one of these works that I put in here is going to bring something to it, bring something to the book, bring something to what I'm doing that is interesting. Rotating the page to try to keep my lines consistent. Here we go. That's looking better. I'll catch myself doing those lines where I'm just sketching it out. I always call it stutter sketching. It's not a smooth, graceful line, and it's something I really try to avoid. I don't like the way that looks, and it's not a good habit. I got into it when I was young. I think a lot of artists do, and I think it's important to just attempt to make the line. Attempt to make the line consistently. It's better in a lot of ways to try to do it in one go and have it be inaccurate than to continue to try to strive for that accuracy, even if you have to do 100 little lines, because you never learn how to do a graceful line. At the end of the day, you might do lines that are accurate, but it takes you so much longer, and you never learn that grace, you never learn that hand control. And even I take a little while to warm up. I mean, I think it's about 1:30 in the morning right now. Family's asleep, wife and kids are in bed, and as I work, I've got this time, but I want to make sure that I'm trying not to say as much, which is, but trying to practice perfect, because practice doesn't make perfect. You have to do perfect practice. There we are. Let's see what we got to do here. Thanks. Whoever's watching, thanks for the like. I do appreciate it. Make sure I'm not off camera. Good. There we are. One of the things I forget to say on my streams, I assume that anybody who's watching this might know me, and that's kind of ridiculous considering how vast the internet is and how vast YouTube is. But my name is Sean Thangetti. I always tell my students to write that in cover letters. In case you're wondering how that name is pronounced, it's Shanth, as in Sean. So Shanth and Jetty. I've had so many people struggle with the pronunciation of my name, and it's not like it's the most common name in the world. I've had some people do an amazing job on it. A YouTuber that I will like to watch actually nailed it on the first try without even having me spell it out, and I was amazed. I don't expect that to be the norm. There we go. That's looking good. I'm liking those lines. That works out pretty nice. Okay, cool. Keep doing that. My hand seems steady enough. Using a little bit more black right there on the collar. I think it gives it a nicer look, a little bit more dimension. And one of the things I was told in art school that I think is absolutely ridiculous. It's one of my favorite bits of canned advice that you can get at art school sometimes, and I can say that because I've worked in teaching at art schools for, oh my goodness, 15 years now, is to never use black when you're painting. It's one of my favorite bits of canned advice that I like to throw out. You can absolutely use black in painting. It's just a question of knowing how to use it. And I don't think that you learn how to use black well, which is a color, if you avoid it. It's a bit like avoiding driving when you want to learn how to drive. You want to learn how to paint, learn how the colors work. And while it can be useful to take people's advice who have more experience than you do, throwing out a color or a way of learning based on something someone else says, you should probably get a second opinion. And so here's your second opinion. Use black, just learn how to use it. Black is like any other color. If you use it poorly, it doesn't work. Use it correctly, it can be great. Mary Blair, Ivan Durrell, Andrew Zorn, a lot of great artists use it. And their stuff is great. And their stuff wouldn't be the same without it. See if I'm still in frame. Not left frame. Knew I was going to do that. There we go. That's a little better. There we go. That's it. When I'm doing outlines like this, when I'm painting, my biggest influence is a Czech artist by the name of Alphonse Mucha. Alphonse Mucha is a pretty famous artist, and he's famous for doing Art Nouveau posters. He's famous for a painting called the Slav Epic. And he's a major, major influence on me. I discovered his work when I was in my late teens, early 20s, and became obsessed with him because his line use was so elegant, it was so stunning. And so whenever I do lines, I think about the graceful nature of his work. And it was the first time I ever saw anybody use color lines, to be honest with you, and that was amazing to me. I grew up on comic books. My heroes were people like Todd McFarlane and artists like that, and I never, thought to incorporate color lines because I was using pen and ink and wasn't using digital yet. Didn't learn digital until after I graduated from school. And I saw Mucha's stuff, and it was amazing to think about not only using color in his work, but using a color line. And it just gave it this quality. I thought, oh, one day I want to be able to do that, and now I'm doing it. It took me a little while to figure out. I was terrible at painting when I was in school, terrible at color theory, but if you just find the right teacher, and my teachers, in terms of color, my most important teacher was a comic book illustrator. It wasn't anybody that I met in college. And maybe you're going to learn color from somebody that you see on YouTube. It could absolutely happen. But wherever you learn it, you got to be dogged in your pursuit of it, your pursuit of knowledge, if you want to improve. And I was terrible at color. And I was not interested. I mean, I wanted to do cool comic book work, but I was not a naturalistic artist is what I was looking for there. And say that too much. I was not a naturalistic artist. I was drawing very cartoony. I was drawing creatures. Everybody had an anguished face, a comic book face. And elegance was the last thing that one would use to describe my work. I mean, if it was there, it wasn't intentional. It wasn't something that I had mastered and that I was comfortable doing. So, what you see me doing right now is the result of a lot of study and being very, very open to change, being very, very open to evolving my work. I think if you draw the same way that you did in your 20s, I don't know a lot of people who do that. That'd be a very weird thing. My heroes are Frank Frazetta and Alphonse Mucha. And Mucha, I don't know what his arc was, because I even though I've studied his history, to me he was always a genius when I look at his work. And I think Frazetta, in terms of what I've seen published, I've seen some of his childhood work now, so he clearly had to learn how to do it at a certain point. But Frazetta's work was very, very different when he was... I gotta work on my uhs. But Frazetta's work was very different when he was working as a comic book illustrator from when he was working as a Hollywood poster painter, which was an oil-painted cartooning style, to when he was a fantasy book cover artist, oil painting artist. And that guy's career and work is just such an inspiration for me. It's really, really great stuff, and I love it. And I love his boldness with color. I love his sensitivity. He would paint these very powerful images to some people, but I think, which is definitely true, I wouldn't disagree with that. But he also did these delicate watercolors, and that's the stuff I love, with really pastel, beautiful, bright colors. And I think if there's one reason why I was not into Frank Frazetta or any of those artists' work, in terms of, I got into Frank Frazetta much later in my life, because I couldn't wrap my mind around painting. I couldn't even imagine it. The fact that I'm painting now is not something I ever imagined I would be able to do. And it's hard to admire someone and incorporate their work into your stuff when you have no idea how to even approach the medium they're working in, which is why I think learning media is so important. Anyone who tells you that learning how to use materials, and I don't mean use them in terms of open the bottle, I mean use them to make something representational, something that you are able to see something and you're able to articulate it with media. I think that's the way I would put it. You're able to make something that's visually articulate. That's the real trick. So if you look at this and you see what I'm trying to show you, which is this figure here, this vampire creature behind him, the nature of this armored costume that he's wearing, this, again, there's the creature that's behind him, then I've done my job. then this thing is hopefully worth your time and hopefully worth your money. And that's what I want. I want someone to see the work I'm doing and say, I need to have this book. If you look at it and you don't need to have the book, it's not for me not trying to show you that this is worth your time and worth your money. That's not something I want to pretend that I don't care about, because I do. Because I think it's important. Let me adjust this camera just a little bit. It's warping the image just a bit. The reason why I do what I do is because I'm excited about these things. And I want my excitement to show on the page. And I want you to be excited about it. One of my favorite YouTubers, one of my favorite channels to watch is a channel called The Choice Voice. And Michael, who is on that channel, Michael, if you check this out at some point, hello. It's good to see you, my friend. Michael introduced me to Hammer horror films. And the reason he introduced me to Hammer horror films is because he's so enthusiastic about them. He was talking about, and he got kind of emotional about it, he was talking about his passion for actors Christopher Lee and Peter Cushing. And I just thought, that's so amazing. I've thought about checking those films out before, but I just hadn't gotten around to it. And Michael's enthusiasm made me want to check that stuff out. And it was similar with my brother Nick. And my brother Nick introduced me to Frank Frazetta, and he's a massive Frank Frazetta fan. I mean, he has not only every one of his books, but he has several copies of all of his books going back to his childhood. And I remember seeing him talk about Frank Frazetta, and I was like, I don't get Frank Frazetta because I can't paint. And then he started talking to me about painting. He started talking to me about oils. And I was, of course, developing my own painting skills at the time. And boy, did I get excited about the idea of it. I started looking at Frank Frazetta's watercolor stuff, his watercolor work, and that was a real kind of gateway for me into his painting stuff. And now, when I would have someone look at some of the more adventure fantasy stuff I do and say, oh my gosh, your stuff kind of reminds me of Frank Frazetta, I can't even believe it. I mean, Frank Frazetta's work is incredible, way stronger than the things I'm doing. It's a lovely compliment. But look at Frank Frazetta's work. If you got a choice between buying my book and buying a Frazetta book, buy a Frazetta book. I would. But, you know, my book will be signed, so there's that. But if you can get a signed Frazetta book, who Frazetta passed away a couple of years ago, but if you can't get one, I would. I mean, it might cost a fortune, but maybe it's worth it to you. But I will happily sign every copy of my book that is ordered. It's something that's great about doing these Indiegogo campaigns. It's being shipped by us. When you get a package from Shanth and Jetty Art, which is essentially Shanth and Jetty, my wife Lauren, and hopefully soon my kids will be helping out, of time. We're doing this one, the shipping on this one. But it's us. We're taking it to the post office. We're doing the postage on everything. That's who you're getting it from. So you're going to get something that I was involved in the packing of. I've signed every single copy of this book. I have personally put the signature into it and helped to get it packaged. And I try to make sure we package those things, spend the time, spend the cash on getting those backed with really strong cardboard so that you get it in great condition. That's important to me. Really important to me. Because I love when I get books from companies that I have a lot of respect for. One of the companies I love ordering stuff from them, is Stewart Ing Books. And Stewart Ing Books is just an incredible outfit on the West Coast, and whenever you order something from them, I've damaged Stewart Ing products trying to open them. They're packed so well. So they come to me in mint condition, and I have a really hard time getting those packages open. It's just absurd, but I love their stuff. I actually got a Frazetta book recently from them that was a catalog. I think it was a catalog for an auction of Doc Dave's, some of the works from his collection. There we go. That's a little better. Sorry about the hiccup in the focus there. See if I can get that to work. But yeah, please go check out the Indiegogo if you haven't yet. And back the book. It's actually one book away from crossing $6,000, which is crazy to think about. I don't think I'm going to do as high of a I don't know what you call it, funding goal for book 3, which is a long ways off. I want to take a break after this book to really think about what I want to do for it. I have a title for book 3 in the series of books, but I want to take some time. But I'm sorry, I got so into the painting I lost my train of thought. But oh yes, so it's about to cross $6,000. I'm really proud of that. And the next person to back that book is going to be the person who makes it happen. I haven't figured out what kind of material this is, but when I'm imagining it in my head, it's some kind of cool, leather, softer armor. Almost maybe like motorcycle leather or padding. I don't know how I would describe it. But that's what I'm thinking for this character. That's what I'm thinking this is going to be about. And this is page... Let's see if I have page 2. I do have page 2 here. So this is just the cover, and then this is the second page right here. And you can kind of see how it's roughed in at this point. And, yeah, this is the stuff I'm working on. It's going to be a lot more detailed than this. But for right now, the detailing is pretty much just started on the bat and started on that character's face. And that's how I chip away at this stuff. Like that's the process when I'm working. This is a more, see if I can give you a sneak peek of this page here. The werewolf on it. Yeah, there you go. There we go. There's the werewolf. There we are. That's another page from the book. So 2 in the morning. So I'm a little daffy, but 2 in the morning isn't that late for me. 2 in the morning is... Still have a few more hours of work in me. We'll see. See how many hours of streaming I have left in me, but I've got a few more hours. Okay, so that's him. Got him get sorted out. Have that gauntlet figured out. And have some of the other stuff figured out. What do I need to work on now? Actually, I'm going to go into that collar again, because while the exterior line on that collar is nice and dark, I think that interior line needs to be darker. So we'll take a breath and try to make the mark. There it is. Alrighty. These are a little harder because they're not straight lines. Keep waiting for one of my teenagers to come downstairs and wave at me and make a silly face. My daughter is obsessed right now with this YouTube show called The Norris Nuts. And I think it's her dream that we become a family show, which is not going to happen, bless her heart. Because that is not my style. But big ups to the Norris Nuts. You make my daughter incredibly happy. She loves watching you guys. She loves you Australians. Very much. Okay, I've got some cloth there that I can start to accentuate just a little bit here. That's in frame. I think I'm blocking a little bit. So yeah, I mean, just going back to something I was talking about before, Michael of Choice Voice, who is a YouTuber that I follow, he does a lot of videos on Hammer Horror, and he just got me really fascinated. And particularly, not that he suggested this as much, but he did get me interested in some of the later Hammer Horror films as a result, because they were just tackling some really, I thought, really interesting and really fun ideas. Some of those Hammer Horror films, I like Universal Horror a lot. I love Universal Horror. But Hammer Horror films were almost had this kind of unbelievable reckless abandon. They were just, they knew that Universal had already done what it had done in horror, and that they weren't going to change everything about it. So they still had those it was kind of a big touchstone at that point. But Hammer came along, and boy, they started doing some really crazy stuff. They did things that basically you would think of Universal horror movies as not doing. They just wouldn't go there, and Hammer went there. And there's something really cool about that. It's strange to look at fun entertainment that isn't as self-conscious as a lot of the stuff that we see today. And that's a huge, there's a huge appeal to those films because of that to me. I mean, I just so much of the work that I see, even when it's trying to be, you know, edgy, is somewhat staid to me. It's somewhat, it's missing some of that passion and some of that enthusiasm and those mistakes. I mean, I grew up on a lot of indie comics, and when I say indie comics, to be clear, the black and white boom in the 80s brought us Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the original series, and that was just an insane and cool and fun comic book. And I really loved what was going on in that. And then it was, of course, Todd McFarlane's Spawn, which was hardly a small indie book. And I just backed his Kickstarter, actually. It's really huge Todd McFarlane fan. Just a really cool guy. Treated me nice. I saw him when I was 14 years old, and couldn't have been a nicer guy, and was kind of a really big moment for me as a young artist. To meet your hero and have your hero live up is a very cool thing. And sometimes it's a big deal. And it was a huge deal for me. It's always nice when people are like that. It's nothing that one can, you know, expect or demand, but it's, boy, is it nice. There we go. So that's the stuff I kind of like. I like some of the, is it the high lowbrow? I think that's what my brother always calls it. Calls it high lowbrow. So just putting in some of those fabric wrinkles, and I'm probably going to knock that back a little bit so it's not as contrasty, but whenever I'm looking at my work, if the color isn't working, I always squint my eyes, and when you squint your eyes, it deprives your color cones of light, and you can see the value and the contrast a little bit more clearly. And so if I do that, I typically can see, oh, the problem isn't so much a color problem as it's a value problem. Things need to get darker here, things need to get lighter there. So you can see me doing that right now. I'll go in and just do a little wash of black, and it sort of ties that together, tamps down that contrast a little bit because it's making the lighter areas so much darker. And when you've got something that's dark, you can put highlights into it, and you can just give it this really, I don't know, get excited about color there. You can give it this really rich, amazing quality. And some of my favorite artists, when I would see their work growing up, just were able to do that, and it's always been exciting to me. I've always been really captivated by people who can do that. I think if you're the kind of artist who struggles with color, and I did, when you figure color out, when someone finally knows how to explain it to you, it's the most empowering and incredible thing in the world. You just think, oh wow, I want to try color, I want to do this. And that's a huge part of it for me, is that I love color now because it was so hard for me to figure out. And just having Brian Stelfreeze, you know, show me how to do it, and or just explain it to me in a way that I understood, is a huge reason why I try to focus on color when I'm teaching and help explain to students how to use it. And my art has done a lot for me too. I'm really grateful that I have the ability to make work that anybody likes to see. And let's see if I can make this work here. There we go. But it's wonderful that you guys back this book. And again, sorry folks, I have to do it. The link is in the description to my latest art book. It has already reached its funding goal, but it is one purchase away from breaking and smashing $6,000, which would be really cool. And then maybe I can put some extra goodies in there, which I will definitely do if it does. But it's an amazing thing, and I've met so many passionate people. I feel like I want to just give shout outs to some of my favorite YouTubers out here, but I'll try to fight that. Well, actually, I don't want to fight that urge. Well, okay, one of my favorite YouTubers out there that if you've not checked out and you have any interest whatsoever in Godzilla and giant monsters, Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews. I love that channel. Before it got canceled, I was really hoping to get a chance to meet Leslie and shake his hand at G-Fest in Chicago, the Godzilla convention. Unfortunately, because of where we are at this moment, it had to be canceled. I understand their decision. I'm sure it was a tough decision for them to make, but the most sensible decision. But I do hope to meet Leslie at some point, because my love of giant monsters, which is in this a little bit, this book, it's in a couple places more than just a little bit. But it's something that watching Leslie and seeing his enthusiasm makes me want to just watch monster movies. He's amazing. Just like Michael makes me want to watch Hammer horror films. So let's see if we can do this here. Let's move this down a bit. And let's get a nice, elegant white line. There we go. That's beautiful. Let's try another one here. On that edge. There we go. That is stuff that I love doing. That's just, I love painting. God, I never thought I'd say that, but I love painting. And for those of you who have no idea who the heck I am, my name is Sean Thingetti, and I can tell you that when I was a kid, I got held in from recess to work on my handwriting because my hand control was so terrible. So when you see me working, if you see me doing anything and you think, wow, that guy's got good hand control, believe me, it was not natural. I had to work on that so hard. Work on my handwriting and doing these lines, these graceful lines that I'm doing right now, just come from a lot of practice. Anybody who puts the time in and puts the work in can do it. I mean, that's the cool thing about it. Oh, I like how that looks. Nice. It's going to be a great book. I am so excited about it. Cannot wait to get this book out there and into people's hands. And I'm really, honestly, I'm really grateful that, I mean, this is my second art book that I've funded. And I'm probably going to close it soon, obviously, so I can just wrap my head around the printing and all that kind of stuff. But I'm really grateful to Indiegogo, because if you had told me when I was getting out of college that there would be a way for me to crowdfund a book, I wouldn't have believed you at all. And when I was making this, I think it's just past 1 year since I closed out my first campaign, and already I've got a second one that's funded, which is incredible. But if you had told me a year before that I was going to be doing an Indiegogo campaign, I would have never believed you. But when my Instagram kind of just blew up and started getting all of these, I thought when I had 100 followers on Instagram, I thought that was insane. But when it passed 5,000, I think now it's at like 30,000. I thought maybe I should try this out and see if anybody wants to buy this art book. And it was absolutely wild that people did. I still can't believe that people backed the book, and I can't even believe that 2 or 3 people are watching this. I guess 3 people right now are watching this. Amazing. So hello, people watching this. It's good to see you. Thanks for checking it out. There we go. That's looking good. So let's rotate this over a little bit, right like that, and then I'm going to put a line right on that collar. Make sure I do this correctly, because I can mess this up. You know what? I'm worried you're not going to see that if I do it at that angle. Let me see here. Slide this down, so you're going to get a peek at another piece of artwork there, and I'm going to try this out. Wish me luck. Just like riding a bike. There we go. Yeah, that's looking good now. I think that's coming together. So now I just got to get some of these other wrinkles to look good, and it'll start to come together. Have that one kind of coming out from underneath, and then mix up some more paint. See if that's in frame. Good. Now I'm going to do the next layer right there, and the next layer, what I want it to do is I want it to kind of cut across a little bit. So, and I need to have enough water to pigment ratio so that it will actually flow off the brush and at the same time have the right opacity on it. That's the hardest thing to learn about painting, honestly. Once you get that down, it's easy to paint. So here we go. That's going to come across. There we go. Okay. There we go. And that'll start, right now it's going to color shift because it's still wet. But that is what's going on with that collar right there. So I just got to figure out what I'm going to do. Okay. I got to do a few more lines up there just to bring it to the character's neck. So I'm going to rotate it so that the angle's correct. Hopefully I'm not making anybody too motion sick. There we go. Need to get the viscosity right. So it's dragging. There we go. That's looking better. Good. Okay. Oh, Alright. Let's see, what else do I have to do? I think... Boy, I've been thinking about this for a while. I gotta see what happens here. I'm gonna try to work on that arm a bit. I'm not sure what I want to do with it yet. So we'll see. Let's see here. color I have here. Hopefully it's the right color. Just gonna do a little bit of light on that forearm right there. See if I can get that to work. Yeah, that's kind of working. Just kind of blend it out with a little bit of water. Now I'm going to go and do dark on the other side. Just get some darker color there. Some shadow. I haven't been too happy with this arm because I wanted it to blend into the background, but it's blending in a bit too much. And I want to make sure it's... I want to make sure you can see it. That's the most basic aspect of it. There we go. That's a little better. It's coming out of there a little bit more. Hopefully. We'll see what happens when the color shift happens, but hopefully that's enough to make it stand out a little bit more without bringing it forward too far. I want to try to get this blade I'm working on to be more interesting. I just can't get there. It just needs a little bit more contrast. I might have a little bit of a nice white highlight on that edge right there. I think that's what it's asking for. So we'll see if we can get that to work. I think I'm going to do that next. So I get this character's back in frame there. There we go. Hopefully that was in frame. Let's do the blade. And speaking of Blade, that is one of my absolute favorite movies. The original Blade starring Wesley Snipes. And Blade 2. Directed by one of my heroes, Guillermo del Toro. So, we'll see. Huge Guillermo del Toro fan, too. So, let's see if I can get that in there. Okay, here we go. That's too watery. So, I'll do a little paper towel there so that I can take some of the moisture out of the brush. There we go. That's got a nice edge to it. The weapon that I chose for this character is inspired by another one of my favorite movies, which is The Book of Eli. The Book of Eli is awesome. If you want to watch a rated R post-apocalyptic martial arts Mad Max movie starring Denzel Washington, I can't recommend The Book of Eli enough. It was a really cool film. It's got Wesley Snipes, Gary Oldman in it, and it's just a really wild action film. There we go. I'll just put in. Now, a lot of these things I'm painting, when I see them on camera, and I see the scale of my hand to them, I realize how small they are. Oh my gosh. But they don't look small when I'm doing it on the page. I don't know why that is, but it just does not. It doesn't seem like it's as small as it is, but I guess it is small. There we go. So I don't want it to go white as it crosses over there. Oops, took it off the page there. Took it off the page again. So, let's see what else I have to do. It's got a nice shadow on it now. I will bloom that out. This side right here. I'll have it kind of fade as it goes down the length of the blade. And thanks for tuning in, anybody checking this out either during the stream or after the stream. Appreciate it. My name is Shanthan Jetty. If you want to see more of my art, check out the channel. And if you want to own a book of my art, check out my Indiegogo. The link is in the description. Do like and subscribe. And I do appreciate those of you guys who've already liked this video. Thank you so much. Do appreciate it. Here we go. Give a look at her face too, because she's going to be a part of this piece as well as the bat. So let's see what we got here. How's his face looking? You'll see me look at the screen, the laptop screen a lot, because it gives me a completely different view of the artwork. I'm used to seeing it on the paper, and sometimes when I look at it on the screen, I see things that I wouldn't normally notice, things that aren't quite balanced, things that are a little bit off, in case anybody's wondering. It's a great tool to be able to use the screen and look at how it scans something in. Sometimes I take a photograph on my phone, and it'll help me to see what things I need to work out and what things aren't as strong as I thought they were. If the face is asymmetrical, things like that. I'm liking that blade now. That's actually starting to look like something. Still got to figure out that handle. That's the next thing I got to do. See if this works. There we go. That's better. Let's see if I can get a highlight on there too. Just a little highlight. See, if I make it too contrasty, one thing I just noticed is it blends into the background a little too much. I don't want that, because you're not supposed to notice that part of it. I want you to notice the blade. I don't want you to notice the hilt, or the handle, I should say. This is strange. It's not totally strange weapon, but it's a little bit, my take on it's a little bit fantasy-ish. Not as accurate as it probably would be if I knew my weapons a little bit better. I try to learn my weapons, but I still, I wouldn't say I'm the best at it. Brian Stelfreeze is the best at it. There we go. Excellent. I think we're getting there. Okay. I just got to see what else I need to do on this thing. I think that face over here needs a little bit more attention. Take a look at it here. That looks okay. Let me get a little bit more of a reflection on his collar. I think that'll look good. that across. There we go. There we go. Decrease the chroma on that one side, and it makes that green that was already there stand out just a little bit more. Gives it a little bit more of a grounded texture to do that. There we go. Sometimes you can add a highlight, sometimes you can just leave a highlight. I'm kind of trying to leave a little bit of a highlight here. Just gives it a little bit more of a believable quality right there, for me anyway. Now I'm going to add a highlight. Here we go. That looks like a good consistency, so let's see if this works. No, it's not the right consistency. There we go, that's starting to look better. Let's see. So if you haven't checked it out yet, please do check out my Indiegogo campaign. It is already funded. It is just one backer away from $6,000, which is crazy to think about. And if you have any interest in the stuff, do give it a backing. Do like and subscribe. It helps. Every little bit helps. And please, if you can't do that, either of those things in terms of backing Indiegogo, do not worry. Just enjoy the videos. But it does help to get the word out. So if you know somebody who might be interested in the stuff or backing the book who's looking for something like this, please feel free to share it. Say, hey, check out this campaign. I think you might like it. I would appreciate it greatly. There we go. I like painting this character a lot, and I just want to make sure I do this character justice. Every single character I just develop or do a painting of, I always want to make sure I do them justice and do justice to every detail so that when you're looking at it, you can almost picture this character walking and talking. That's the big thing. And that happens with some of these little details, these little reflections that I've put in there. It's amazing how with 3 values, 2 middles, or 2 darks, and then a contrast note, you can really start to create the look that something is completely believable, or at least mostly believable. A nice little edge light right there where that's catching the light, and suddenly it starts to pop. That's the fun part of this. That's what I love about doing this work. Just putting in, but you have to build up first before you do it, which is the hard part. I get impatient sometimes, and I just want to put those highlights in that are going to make this thing look a little bit more solid, a little bit more believable, and develop the form. There you go. That's starting to work. Sometimes at night I'll be working on these things, and I think this will definitely be a really good final thought there on my work. I really wish my late father-in-law, who passed away in 2009, could see what I'm doing now, and who knows, maybe he is seeing what I'm doing right now. But he was one of the most supportive people, and he never got a chance to see any of the stuff I'm doing right now, which is just, you know, it is what it is. But one of the most amazing people. I met him, and he was just like, he was supportive of my marrying his daughter from the get-go, supportive of my artwork, and just a terrific guy. Was an ER doctor, and he had one of my absolute favorite mottos that he would put on all of his charts. And the motto that he would put on all of his charts whenever he finished with a patient in the emergency room was, the initials he would put was, or the acronym was DTRT. DTRT, do the right thing. And he would be as excited as anybody for the Indiegogos, for the Instagram followers. As funny as that stuff is, he was just such a champion of people, and he was a real champion of me. And wherever that guy is right now, I hope he's seeing all this stuff and knows how much of a part of it he was. His support meant a lot. Here we go. There, that's looking good now. That I can start to live with. Let me see. There we go. That's starting to look a lot more solid. Yeah, that's working for me. All right, gang. Thanks so much for tuning in. Take care. I do appreciate it. And I will catch you guys at the next stream. And please check out the channel for more videos and more how-to stuff. All right? Take care, guys. Have a good evening. Bye.